Hey, I'm Chris Walker with evangelismcoach.org, as well as churchgreetertraining.com, and I'm here today once again with Reverend Susan, a friend of mine who is a pastor in Texas, but she's had a lot of experience in visiting a lot of different churches with her family, whether they go on vacation or they happen to have a Sunday off. And so she's told me another story where she and her family of her husband and 4 teenagers visited a church. And so I'd like you to hear it, and then let's figure out how we can help this pastor. So welcome again, Susan. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Chris. Well, as you mentioned, my family and I enjoy visiting other churches on the Sundays that I'm off. And we make quite an entrance when we go in a church because we have 4 kids within a 4.5-year age span. So the 6 of us kind of walk into a church and it looks like a built-in youth group. So we went to this one particular church that's in my tradition, and my tradition has been nicknamed the Frozen Chosen. And we were hoping for a warm reception at this church, or wanted to see kind of how things were at this church. So we come in, and the pastor and his wife greeted us very warmly. They were very friendly and nice.
This is in maybe the lobby area or
yes,
the narthex area?
In the narthex area as we were coming in. And began worshiping, and my children, of course, being pastors' kids, are very churched, and so they know the hymns and they know the Gloria Patri, and they're obviously, nice-looking church kids. Well, during the passing of the peace, all the parishioners were getting out of their seats and hugging and chatting and everything.
Shaking hands.
Shaking hands. There was a lot of hugging, though, too.
Okay.
And but it was interesting that no one came to talk to us. We got a few kind of smiles and nods across, but no one came over to meet us or find out if we had moved to town or if we were on vacation or kind of what our situation was. So I thought that was the first little flag I got there. And then after the service was over, there was a central aisle, and everyone was filing into the central aisle, and there was a bottleneck getting out of the building. So we were all filed very close to one another, waiting to leave. And so here we were in close proximity to all these strangers. And again, no one made an effort to visit with us or talk to us or say hello. Now, for my teenagers, this was fine. They just kind of, whatever. They didn't really want to talk to a bunch of strange people. But my husband and I both felt a little bit awkward, and so both of us were making conversation with people.
You're both also extroverts and love to engage people anyway, so it's a natural part of your personality to want to engage people.
Started talking to people, but then we realized we got in the car and no one from the church had initiated any kind of contact with us. They had no papers for us to fill out or any kind of way of tracking our presence. And I thought, gosh, if we had been looking for a church, they would have missed a huge opportunity.
With a built-in youth group coming in the door?
Yes, they did have several youth. It wasn't just elderly people. They had some families our age and some youth. And I just think from my church, if we would have had a family with 4 teens walk in, we would have been, probably, hopefully all over that.
Now, you had mentioned that this building seemed to be pretty new,
yes.
And so maybe it was a new church development or a new location for an existing church.
Maybe. I don't know their situations.
And a lot of times from some of what you all have told me is that you all are in a new building or you've launched a new building and you want people to get connected with your church. And part of that helping process in getting them connected is saying hello. Even if you do the passing of the peace, and of course not everybody likes that handshake fest in the middle of a worship service, but if your church chooses to do that, what would you suggest to the pastor to do something different so that wouldn't happen again?
Well, I think if you're going to have passing of the peace, you need to have certain people, and their job is to scan the congregation. And if there's a first-time visitor or people that have come back after a long time or new people of any kind, their job is not to chat with their friends, but to go make an effort, cross the building, introduce themselves and say, hey, how'd you hear about our church? Or come up with some opening conversation that honors the people.
And likewise, if you were to do some greeter training, this could be not only another case study, but maybe some of the greeters who are still on duty during that particular Sunday can be those type of people who go and make that extra effort during the passing of the peace time to go and meet those visitors. Now, let's talk a little bit about while you were leaving the sanctuary and nobody wanted to really engage you in conversation. One of the best times, and here's what the research has actually shown, believe it or not, that a visitor will determine within the first 10 minutes when a service is over whether or not a congregation is friendly. And so here you are as a family, and they're there as visitors, they're in close proximity with people, but there's no friendliness. And so one of the things that you want to do as you're growing your hospitality ministries is to think about how do you take initiative to engage people in conversation when the service is over. Yes, it's just being friendly. And for some of us, it seems normal. For extroverts like you and me, that's pretty easy to do. But for a lot of people, and maybe for those who you're training in your hospitality ministries, it's a little bit more difficult. Now let me ask you this. Somewhere on this website, probably below this particular video where you're watching it, if you're watching it at the website, what I'd like you to do is to throw your comments in. How would you help this pastor to make changes so that something like this wouldn't happen in your church? Feel free to put that in the comment field below and let's have a discussion about it.